Father, as Easter approaches, we're reminded of your sufferings on the cross and think of those who are suffering in our world. We pray for those who have lost homes in Tathra on the south coast, local council and emergency services there struggling to come to terms with the huge losses. We pray for those who are affected by war, famine and natural disasters, and that they may have hope in difficult times. We also acknowledge that our institutions and governing authorities have been ordained by you to provide for the order, safety and well-being of society. We thank you for your servants here tonight, giving of their time and talents to this purpose. We pray for good health for them and their families, also your wisdom, guidance and direction for decisions taken tonight. May your blessing be over this meeting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Darug people, and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. Please remain standing for the National Anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Mr. McNulty.
Be advised that the open session of this council meeting will be recorded and streamed live on council's website. This recording will also be archived and be Whilst all care will be taken to maintain the privacy of the public gallery, members of the public may be recorded. Council requests that all members of the public are respectful and use appropriate language.
Thank you, Mr. McNulty. I believe we have two leaves of absence, Councillor Hammond and Councillor Rami, and that would mean there'd be no other apologies. Councillor Garrard, seconded Councillor Sarkis. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Councillor, are there any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest? Councillor Grove?
Declare an interest in the CO3 1840. My employer is a delivery partner in one of the, 1839. My employer is a delivery partner for one of those projects. I'll also note and I believe it's erroneous, the reference in the report, but it's also referenced in 1841. I'll, as a precautionary matter, well, I'll definitely be leaving the chamber for 1839, and as a precautionary move, I will be vacating the chamber on 1841 as well.
Thank you, Councillor Grove. And any other interests? Thank you. Well, it's going to be good. Council, confirmation of the minutes. Thank you. Councillor Campbell, but I think I had a move, Councillor Elmore, and seconded.
So I request a correction to the minutes, please.
Certainly.
On page 16, at the bottom of the page, well, there's the matter of urgency. Says sister city relationship, but actually I think it refers to the other one. It says that resolution was carried unanimously, and Mr. Mayor, you did say that at the last meeting, and I immediately requested that the minutes record that I hadn't voted for it because I didn't vote for it. So I request that be corrected.
With that amendment, yep. Thank you, Councillor Elmore. I take it with that amendment, Councillor Campbell, you're seconding the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Council, I believe, Councillor Christou, you have a proposed matter of urgency?
Yes, I do. If it indulges the chair, we might proceed with this now. If not, I can wait till the end of the meeting. And I had an email, a quite detailed email from a constituent of mine wanting me to air his concerns regarding cleanliness in the Granville Merrylands area. I must profess I have given the General Manager a heads up to prepare a thorough response. So if Council doesn't mind, and if I could just read out the gentleman's email.
Councillor Christou.
Councillor, how are you? I've been a property owner, local resident of Merrylands for over 3 years now, and I've been through the amalgamation process and have seen the differences between the old Holwood Council and the current Cumberland Council. I've found your profile and wanted to express my deep concerns regarding the faults and setbacks with LGA since the amalgamation has been in progress with Cumberland Council, in which I've noticed and is becoming of a huge issue and would like these issues to be raised at your next meeting and hopefully rectified ASAP, please. They are as follows. I recently visited the old brickworks at Merrylands Park off Pitt Street across the Birmingham Street. Upon my visit here, I noticed under the old Holwood Council, the grounds were a lot more better maintained. I saw dead wildlife such as dead ducks in the small river creek and their bird poo everywhere around the river creek. At the very same park, whilst my child was playing at the kids' playground, I came across a disposed used drug needle, which could have caused injury to any child. I called your Merrylands office, only to be told there's no one here and have gone home. I can understand people aren't at work 24/7, but this was a high risk and nothing was done about it. Other concerns are the growing rate of illegal curbside dumpings and around curb and gutters, excessive amounts of weed and grass growing, which is really making our areas look untidy and very run down. If you look around the middle traffic islands, some of the grass is over waist height in some parts of the LGA. Weeds are growing out of pits. Also in my own street, I have not seen one sweeper driver in over 2 years. I believe your council workers are not being very efficient at what they are doing, and it's very disappointing to see our local LGA looking so run down and litter everywhere and overgrown weeds and grass everywhere. To add further, most recently, council clearly appointed local contractors to undertake ripping out the old concrete footpaths around Windsor Street and Manchester Street, Merrylands, but nothing was done to Birmingham Street side at all. Any reason why Birmingham Street was not done at all, please? I will also soon send you photos of certain sites where weeds, as mentioned, over height grass haven't been touched for months, whereas under the old Holwood Council, these areas were always well maintained. Very disappointing, I must admit. Otherwise, all else is fine. Wish you guys the best. Regards, Mustafa. So, look, as stated, no, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't air this gentleman's concerns. I was asked to air his email concerns, so that's council has dealt with some of the issues, I believe, but there is a response pending, and we can look into those.
Any comment from any officers? Well, I might just take that. Yeah. First of all, does council consider it as a matter of urgency?
I think so, Mr. Mayor. With respect. I would add that there are other areas, and once this is carried as a matter of urgency, I'd add to that motion. Mr. Mayor, it's a matter of urgency because it could be a health hazard to our residents just walking up and down the streets. and we don't want to put ourselves in a position whereby we could, even a bag of rubbish on a footpath could be a trip hazard, and council could be held liable for something as simple as that. So with that in mind, I think it's best that we tread with caution and treat it as a matter of urgency and see what happens from there.
Councillor Garrard.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a matter of urgency as well, because the whole council is suffering from the same problem.
Yes.
And we don't have any money to fix it. That's the urgency. The urgency is we have no money. And the urgency is, unfortunately, that the good burghers of Marylands ought to get in line. So they'll be in line behind everybody else that needs to get their stuff done too. So there's no simple solution here to this gentleman, because there simply is not. The administrator, when he's established this budget that we're working on at the moment, hasn't given us enough resources in order to address things of a basic nature that need to be done in the city. And we all know that the job of the administrator, which is us at the moment, the administration, eventually is to provide the resources to the organisation. The administrator clearly, when he established the budget that we're working on at the moment, has not delivered the amount of resources required to address the needs of this city. So it is urgent from that perspective. Just what we do with the problems in the letter, I don't know, because if it's going to be get a letter to council and read it out and we'll go down tomorrow and fix it all, the place is going to be covered in band-aids, right? That's really what you're doing, putting a band-aid on every place. Then other people are going to say, well, why can't I get it fixed as well? So there's our problem, right? No resources. The only saving grace is we have the opportunity now, Mr. Mayor, to be able to set the resources for the coming 12-month period, which will be in the budget as of the 1st of July. So, you know, there's not good news there, but I can appreciate where the ratepayer is coming from.
Thank you. Before I ask for other speakers, I will put it to a vote. So all those in favour of the... You'll have up there, that'll be the proposed, that council investigates the cleanliness issues raised by the resident in Birmingham Street, Marylands. So I'll put it, all those in favour of the matter of urgency? Against? Declare that carried. I have, do the officers wish to address before, and then I have Councillor Zareka, then Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Sarkis, and Councillor Lee.
All I want.
Certainly, Councillor.
And they can do it in one.
Councillor Zareka.
The question is, what scope have we got under the contract with the cleaners to do extra services?
Who would like to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Fitzgerald, thank you.
My apologies. Through you, Mr. Mayor. If I may just clarify, I think you're referring to the garbage contract?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor, the garbage contract just is primarily based around the collection of dump rubbish, hard waste collections and domestic waste bins. They're not responsible for general litter. That's an in-house staff matter. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor, the URM garbage contract is not responsible for litter collection. It's only responsible for dump rubbish collection, pre-booked household waste or scheduled collections, and domestic waste collection.
Mr. Govers, thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments of Councillor Christou and acknowledge that there are areas there that we need to look at, and also note the comments of Councillor Garrard in that we are working to a budget that was set under a period of administration with an operational plan that addresses that, and the councils know that we have been working with the councillors in terms of next year's budget, and that a number of budget bids have been put forward to address litter in parks and also litter in streets. That being said, the issue of the syringe that was raised, that is an error. We have staff on 24/7 to be able to deal with those matters, and the call should have gone through to those staff, whether it's during operational hours or after hours, for that staff to deal with that. And I've made inquiries into why that didn't happen in that case, because that should have happened straight away. That is a serious issue, and we should be giving it the attention that it deserves.
Thank you, Mr. Govers. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think as this is a formal motion, I'd like to amend it so that after the cleanliness issues raised by residents, the cleanliness issues, I think after the word issues, we want to say throughout the local government area, because all right, we'll find another way to say it then. Investigate the cleanliness issues raised by a resident in Birmingham Street. Okay. These issues as they apply throughout the local government area. What is it? Yeah. Oh, all right, or similar to those raised, but whatever. I think that Councillor Garrard was absolutely spot on. Where I think we're getting good at getting things cleaned up, and I'd like to congratulate Mr Fitzgerald. He's pretty brilliant. If you report something through to him, it gets rectified pretty quickly. So I'm grateful for that. But I think members of the public need to understand that council takes this issue very, very seriously, and not only at council meetings but at briefings and elsewhere, councillors have paid a great deal of attention to it. But it is a systemic problem. Running around with band-aids here and there, picking up this dump, that dump, a bit of litter in this street and then the next street, that's not the answer to the problem. It's an immediate answer to an immediate problem, but we need to develop a better system for keeping the place clean. We need to attend to matters before people ring up councillors about them, and to keep the whole place in such a state that we don't have to have all of these band-aids thrown around the place. So I don't think there's an easy answer to this, or if there is, I don't know it, I haven't got it, so I'm not proposing a solution, but we do need to delve into it and call upon the expertise that our staff have to find a comprehensive solution to this problem, because I'll talk about Auburn because that's what I know best, that area. It is an absolute disgrace. It has been for a long time. I know Mr Fitzgerald's efforts have made a big difference to certain streets which are constantly brought to his attention, but there is the rest of the LGA.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Sarkis, you take it you're speaking in favour of the motion?
Before I do, Mr Mayor, I'd like to say that I know the change has been made. I don't think it runs well. The council will investigate the cleanliness issues throughout the LGA generally, as well as those raised by the resident in Birmingham Street, Marylands. By saying the resident, it could be anybody, but if you highlight at least the resident in Birmingham Street that approached Councillor Christo, will know that that's the resident that we're referring to. And I think that's important with this as well. That being said, Mr Mayor, stand up now that that's being fixed. Mr Mayor, one of the other matters with cleanliness and cleaning and garbage in the LGA, and I've had this put to me by so many different residents, and I've spoken to various staff about it, is I know it's a separate matter to this, but they're kind of interlinked because it is rubbish collection. Rubbish bins, trucks used to pick up, empty the rubbish bin and put it down, and the lid used to be closed. It seems in recent months, once they empty the bin and they put it back down, the lid's either breaking or staying open. And so when it rains, it's getting a whole heap of water in there. This never used to happen before, but it's been brought up, I think, in the last 2 months, at least, 24, 25 times by various residents. And I've spoken again to various staff members about it. Like, I don't know what the go is. I don't know whether the contractor's using a different type of a truck that dumps the bin and puts it back down, but the lids are staying open or they're getting broken. So could that also be investigated as a part of this? Because it's costing this council money to replace bin lids, and if not to replace them, to just follow it up, it costs us money. Making phone calls and spending time with residents it's something that we shouldn't have to be doing, but we're having to do it. So there's clearly a problem with the way that they're emptying the rubbish from, just household bins. I know in the street behind where I live, I've been approached by about 6 residents in that street, all in the one day, where all their lids were broken as a result of the bin, that is the truck bin, dumping it and putting it down. The actual lid was broken. Like, one side would come off, and it was all exactly the same break. So one side would break off. So you could see that the lid was getting caught on something. They all had the same indent on the lid, right? And some of them have had that broken lid now for 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and it hasn't been replaced yet. It's a matter. So if we can add that somewhere, if Councillor Christo would accept that.
I think because of the cleanliness issue, I don't think we have to be specific, but I'm sure Mr. Fitzgerald will take that on note.
Yeah, please take that on board, because it is it's an issue that needs to be dealt with.
Thank you, Councillor Sarkis. Well, I have the motion be put. Sorry, Councillor Lake, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Zareka. All those in favour that the motion be put? Against? Declare that carried. Councillor Christou, you write a reply?
Yeah, look, I'd like to thank Council for supporting the motion. It is... Oh, I want the right of it. There's no opposition? Well, look, it doesn't matter. I'll be brief, okay? At the end of the day, it's a good result because this is a matter of urgency and importance. Cleanliness, and I want to clarify that when my constituent Mustafa contacted me, and I did speak to him on the phone personally, his general concern was not only for Birmingham Street and Marylands, it was for the whole council area. So I just want to clarify that. Although the initial email signalled those streets, when I spoke to him in person, he was very concerned that things were better under the old Holroyd council, and he wants things to change, and I couldn't agree with him more. And we've seen a whole influx of problems this week alone, which I've sent through to the General Manager's department, or the Interim General Manager, and I'm glad they've finally being looked at.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be forwarded to all councillors.
I'll clarify.
Yes, certainly.
It came through as a Facebook message on my councillor's page, and I sent it to myself in an email format. So I'm happy to table that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Christou. That closes debate. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Council, we have a request for a speaker on item 43, the feasibility of constructing a public toilet block in Woodburn Road in the Barella Town Centre. Thank you, Councillor Sarkis. Is there a second? Councillor Wong. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Mr. Tony Oldfield, would you like to come to the rostrum, please? Mr. Oldfield, you have 3 minutes to address council, and if you could please stay there for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to address council, Mr. Mayor. I support the recommendation in the report. I'd just like to, because I've already spoken on this item a number of times previously, I want to say quickly that the public toilet is really important for our community in Barella. There's 2 sections of our community that rely on easy access to a public toilet. Our senior citizens, particularly those with declining health, and the other group is young mothers with children. It can be highly embarrassing and humiliating for people in our community when they don't have that access. And it's also not fair that people have to rely on private facilities in the Barella area, particularly the hotel. And this is culturally sensitive for quite a few people in the local community. I just wonder about the costing, and I'd like to hear from the staff about how we can justify, I think, $506,000, $500,000 for a toilet. I'm sure it can be done much cheaper than that. Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions of Mr Oldfield? No questions. I'm sure when we go back into council, those questions will be asked of the officers, Mr Oldfield. Thank you. Could I get a motion for resumption? Moved Councillor Addy, seconded Councillor Sarkis. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Mr Fitzgerald, would you like to address the questions asked by Mr Oldfield?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the costings are based upon $180,000 for a prefabricated stainless steel, fully automated toilet, which is fabricated off-site and shipped in and brought in. The other part of the costings relate to the civil works and the minor civil construction which is required. There's also the need to dig a trench across the road onto the northern side of the shopping village there to link it with the sewer. There's also some significant costs in relation to the engagement of a water service coordinator through Sydney Water, and there's also contingency sum within that budget, just in case the works run over. The other part, the initial shock of seeing such a cost as that comes from the fact that the estimate that we have is based upon the fact that a contractor would need to come and mobilise themselves onto the site. If council, if the current council or the administrator at the time chose to proceed the way that the former Auburn council did, the current contractor would be carrying out those works now. So there is an additional cost in relation to that.
Before I open debate, is there any further questions of Mr. I've got Councillor Garrard. Councillor Garrard.
To the council officer, aren't these stainless steel toilets self-cleaning?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes they are.
So I thought you said you had staff cleaning them. I might have misheard you.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, it's self-cleaning, so they're fully automated toilets.
Yes, yeah.
Self-cleaning.
That's right.
Councillor Zareka, do you have a question of the officer, or?
Oh no.
Okay, no, that's fine. Councillor Elmore, do you?
I do, Mr Mayor. I've read the business paper.
And then Councillor Grove.
And it appears to me that this toilet was already costed into the works at Barella. Barella's not my ward, but I do know a little bit about Barella. But if I read the report correctly, the administrator was his opinion that the toilet was too expensive and it didn't go ahead. Am I reading that correctly? And the toilet was budgeted for, so that's the only reason why the toilet's not there at the moment.
I'll put that to the Acting General Manager, Mr McNulty.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Elmore, the administrator removed the toilet from the scope of the project because he wasn't happy about its location, not its cost. The cost of that facility was part of the original budget for the project, and those funds remain in the budget for the project. Would not require any additional funding.
So can I ask an additional question? So the location that was recommended in the Barella upgrade for the toilet, is that the same location the toilet is proposed to go in? So
yes, it is.
So we wasted 12 months and for over nothing. So thank you, Mr Mayor. That's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you, Councillor Elmore. Councillor Grove.
I'm sorry, I had exactly the same question, and it's been answered.
Thank you. Further discussion, Council? I have nothing before me. Well, I've got Councillor Campbell first. So.
Yes, I was going to move the adoption of the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Would you like to second that, Councillor Garrard?
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, as has already been mentioned, this was part of the Barella upgrade, the plan for it, and I think that first came before Council in 2012, I think. Certainly was discussed in 2013, I recall clearly, and the Barella, was it? The Barella upgrade was subject to extensive consultation amongst the local residents, and there was a plan to do various works there, including the public toilet. There's a fairly central feature because consultations discovered that a large number of people really wanted to have a public toilet there. It's long overdue, and we should go ahead with it. I too was concerned at the cost. $500,000 for a toilet. It sounds like it's a golden throne, and we now find out it's only going to be stainless steel. But I'm sure that it will probably be appropriate to label it on the outside as the golden throne, looking at the cost of it. But it appears that 500. You wanted a monument to the administrator, do you?
Don't forget.
Okay, but if this was included in the original Barella upgrade, and as the report indicates, $559,000 was saved by taking it out, excluding it, and the cost of doing it now, it looks like being about $460,000, and we're still going to have about $100,000 left over in Barella to do something with. Well, but at any rate, the cost is horrendous, I think, but Mr Fitzgerald has explained why, and it has to go ahead. If that's the cost of having a public toilet in Barella, then we've just got to bear it.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Grove.
Actually, if I may ask one question.
Certainly, Councillor Grove.
What alternatives were considered before coming to this solution?
Mr Fitzgerald.
It would be cheaper.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor, we looked at a number of solutions. The issue is the fact that council there's not a lot of public land around there that we own. There were a couple of solutions in relation to brick, different types of materials, different types of setups. The fully automated toilets, the former Auburn Council had one installed in Railway Park on the other side of the railway tracks in Auburn, which is currently in existence, and it's working quite well. There's a reduction in maintenance costs as associated with putting toilets of that nature in. Also too, we looked at options for the rail corridor, but they weren't supported by Transport for New South Wales. We then looked at striking an agreement with the Sydney Trains, which I think they're now called, after the Barella train station would be upgraded. We sought to get access to the toilets on the platform up there for the community, but that is quite a shaky deal. Excuse the pun, or it's quite.
Can you explain why it's a pun?
Furthermore, Councillor, I think the best outcome was always going to be this solution, and that's the way that it was originally designed, and that's the way the community was consulted over the whole Barella streetscape upgrade.
I've flagged my intention to speak, so I'll grab this one while I've got it. But I flagged it pre-question. So look, I just can't help but remark that if we get even the slightest rounding error that blows out the cost of this project, $460,000, it may wind up being cheaper for us to buy one of the flats across the road and just put a door at the front of it and let people use that. I'm going to flag myself as a speaker against on this one. I can't help but look. We're going to be deleting parking from the Barella Town Centre. We're spending $460,000 to do that. I'd always had my views on the administrator. I know that he was prone to his quirks. I didn't think he'd want to go so far as to deny people a place to poo. With this explanation, I certainly can see his point in not wanting the gateway to the Barella Town Centre as you drive down the road there, not to be the Woolworths, not to be the pizza shop out the front of the Woolworths, but to be the what do they call it? Water closet that now obscures the view of both. Welcome to Barella. We got our toilet. It cost us $500,000, and there are people who live in. Yeah, I'm just kind of stunned that this is the best possible outcome. I would have hoped that we would have been able to come to a better deal with any of the landowners. I can't imagine we've got full tenancies on the western side of the road in Barella. We could have rented and installed on rented facilities a public toilet and paid a commercial rent and got a better outcome for the ratepayer. I don't think this is in the interests of Barella. I accept that there is a demand and that demand needs to be met. I don't think this is in the interests of the ratepayer from a cost view. I don't think this is the interest of Barella from an aesthetic view or a parking view. And with that in mind, I'm going to oppose the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Grave.
Councillor Garrard, he asked the motion to be put. I seconded it. He allowed Councillor Grove to speak. And the previous motion that the matter of urgency, there was speakers wanted to speak, then you cut them off. So. That's correct.
Well, he did have the floor, and he.
Interject, and I'd ask order.
No, I'm willing to take that on as my explanation. Councillor Grave did have the floor. Generally, a call for the motion be put is after a speaker has finished his speech. But I will now put, as per the Councillor Garrard's call, that the motion be put. All those in favour? Aye. Against? No. I declare that carried.
About the motion being put.
Motion being. All right, I'll put it. All those in favour that the motion be put, please raise your hands. Councillor Grave, Councillor Zareka, Councillor Addy, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Wong, Councillor Lake, Councillor Suman, Councillor Saha, Councillor Christou, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Cummings. Those against? Councillor Zato and Councillor Sarkis. I declare that carried. Councillor Campbell, right of reply.
I regret that Councillor Grove shares the same kind of anal hang-up in relation to toilets that the administrator had, who regarded public toilets being unsightly and should be kept out of sight. The people of Barella will have no difficulty locating the nearest toilet. It'll stand out there, and there may be nicer. There may be nicer landmarks than public toilets. I admit that, but I don't think that the option should be nothing, an absence of a toilet. Having the public toilet there is the most important thing. It has been delayed for a very long time. It's time to get on with it. If we don't approve it tonight, and what are we going to do? There'll be no toilet, or it'll come back in some other form. Councillor Grove may have the council running around trying to buy properties off people. Perhaps you'd like to see a long drop established in someone's front yard with Hessian screens around it. That would be a lot cheaper. But, sorry? Hessian. You might be too young to remember. But anyway, let's get on with it, and I think we need to approve this.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. Come on.
Councillor
Campbell has a floor.
He does.
There has to be some respect around this.
He does. Councillor Campbell, if you could.
I just appeal to the council to have some regard and respect for the people of Barella who have been holding on for a long time to get their public toilet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. That closes debate. If it's pertinent to your voting, who to? Mr. Fitzgerald?
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
What steps have you taken to relocate that toilet to save the Barella Town Hall? The community centre, sorry. Yeah, no. On that site.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this very question came up during the construction of the Barella Community Centre, which was constructed under the former Auburn Council. The community, when we went to because there was a whole round of consultation with the Brella community in relation to the community centre and the streetscape upgrade, which is just nearing completion. The community came back to us and said no, like that wasn't the preferred location. As the concept stands, the original former Auburn Council concept as it stands, that was what they preferred, and that's what we are proposing in this report tonight, to go back to the former Auburn Council concept.
And very short,
So I'd ask this one question. So where the toilet is being proposed is right in front of Woolworths. So I just want to know, does Woolworths and that shopping centre there have public toilets?
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't answer that question, Councillor Sarkis.
Outside another toilet.
All right, Councillor Zeta, but that's it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to the relevant individual, Mr. Fitzgerald. The proposed, I suppose, location for the toilet is literally backing the street where cars are driving by. Is that safe?
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this very point was raised by the administrator. That's why he deemed it inappropriate. The designing in designing the toilet block, we've allowed for the appropriate crash barriers and bollards to be installed around the toilet, and plants and landscaping to go around the toilet.
Yes. Yes, that's calculated into it. Thank you. That closes debate. All those in favour? Against? I believe it's carried. Show of hands. All those in favour? Councillor Garrard, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Wong, Councillor Lake, Councillor Saha, Councillor Christou, Councillor Addy, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Cummings. Those against? Councillor Zareka, Councillor Grove, Councillor Zeta and Councillor Sarkis. I declare that carried. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Council, I'm going to ask for items by exception, and I'll run through those who... Well, I can, but we do have it flagged by Councillor Grove that he has a conflict on a couple of items.
Let's move the whole thing, let him get out.
No. So let me run through the list. So is there anybody who wishes to discuss the investment report? No. Is there anybody who wishes, well, we need nominations for the Australian Local Government Association.
Can we just email it through, Mr. Mayor?
If that's the interested parties. Okay, all right, so that one can go by exception. And that's me. Yes, I'm going. What else would I do in the middle of winter but go to Canberra, Councillor Sarkis? The mayoral fund is being withdrawn. The Stronger Community Fund? No speakers on that. The tender evaluation for the cleaning of council buildings? No. Okay. Station Street, Guildford remediation? No. You've got an amendment, so that one's out. Okay. The notice of motion of the seating arrangements in the council chambers? Well, it's there in the paper.
We've got a decision to make.
We're going to have to make a decision. So, all right. We've dealt with the toilet. The finalisation of planning proposal for 67 to 73 St Heliers Road.
We have to have a division, so we have to have it.
Yeah, it's a planning matter. Yep. The installation of exercise stations at Phillips Park and then Granville Park, the last two items. There's any speakers on that? No? Okay. Move Councillor Christou. Even though it's not going to be...
Okay, yeah, I need to walk out separately anyway.
All right. Well...
Because Councillor Lake is out.
Okay. So on, council.
I don't mind moving the motion. It wasn't me that called out.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I had councillors. My apologies, Councillor Christie. It was Councillor Sarkis and Councillor Wong. So moved that item 36, item 37, item 39, item 40, and then item 45 and item 46. Is that correct? Moved Councillor Sarkis, seconded Councillor Wong. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried.
Squad the way ran out of here.
Marriage at first sight. Council, Station Street, Guildford, remediation. I believe Councillor Lake. Councillor Lake.
Thank you. No, I can move the recommendation with an amendment that I don't think people will find controversial. I'm just adding a point 3, that Cumberland Council write to the City of Parramatta requesting that all records held by it relating to any land transferred to Cumberland Council on the 12th of May 2016 be provided to Cumberland Council forthwith. I haven't. No, I made it up as I went along. That's right. The Cumberland Council write to the City of Parramatta requesting that all records held by it relating to any lands transferred to Cumberland Council on 12 May 2016 be provided forthwith. It was 12 May, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right at 10 past 12, actually.
Forthwith.
Any further discussion? Councillor Elmore.
I thank Councillor Lake for moving this recommendation, and certainly point 3 that Cumberland Council asked the City of Parramatta to hand over any information. The title deeds is that land still in the name of Parramatta Council? Has it been transferred over? Yeah. I've got work to do. I've got a day job.
Mr. Knight, could you shed some light on that, please?
Yes, thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Councillor Elmore, as part of the proclamation, those transfers have happened, but we will go through and recheck all of the records on land titles to ensure that we are the title holder in each of those lots.
Thank you. I'd like to go back a couple of years when Parramatta Town Hall, Granville Town Hall, when I checked the title some years ago, still in the name of the council of the borough of Granville. So that didn't get transferred over to Parramatta, and I don't know if it's been transferred back to Cumberland yet. But the Granville Town Hall was built in 1888, and it never got transferred to Parramatta. So we're really got to look at. I know title deeds. I don't know if you've got the title deeds, you've got your own property, but certainly we've got to look at. We've got to ask Parramatta Council to transfer over those deeds correctly, transfer those titles in their entirety, not just under this proclamation thing.
And we'll make sure that all of those, and we'll go through the list of all of our council assets and ensure that Cumberland Council is the title holder on all of our council assets.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I've got Councillor Zareka, and then Councillor Zada, then Councillor Addy. Councillor Zareka.
Mr. Mayor, can I move a motion that an additional point be added to that?
Well, it might be acceptable by the mover and the seconder if you'd like to put it forward.
Hmm? that the, yeah, sorry, so the council investigate whether that the land that once remediated is turned into, or converted, sorry, converted into a reserve. Whether that land is feasible once remediated to be converted into a reserve. Yeah.
All right. Councillor Elmore, I believe Councillor Lake is accepting that. Councillor Elmore, you're accepting?
So there's some history, there. But when the land was purchased, it was purchased. It was Section 94 money, and it was categorised as community land back then, not operational land. And also, I had a conversation with somebody that I know, and the original proposal was to purchase some properties in Bolton Street, and back in Parramatta Council's day, one of the people that owned some of the houses along Bolton Street, they tried to negotiate with council and they couldn't come to an agreement. So the acquisition of those properties along Bolton Street never materialised. But I won't put this in the motion, but I'd like council to
I think, councillor, if you just hold it there, that you might find that there's some progress there. So I'd leave it there and open council.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Zada.
This particular recommendation requires us to, I suppose, set aside some capital works that we've already put forward for 2018 in order to undertake this particular set of works. It needs to be done based on the type of work or the type of asbestos that's actually on the land. We need to do that as quickly as possible. I totally understand this. But it's my understanding there were some emails that went to and fro today to the General Manager where one of the local residents was just asking, firstly, if we are going to spend $500,000 on remediating this particular property, what works are we going to push back to next financial year? Because we'll have to take it out of the current budget. And whether the $500,000 could be spent out of Section 94 contributions on the basis that the land was actually originally purchased from Section 94 contribution. Now, it's my understanding that the GM came back and advised the local resident that we could potentially spend this $500,000 out of Section 94 contributions rather than our current budget. Now, it's great for us to move. I would find it very hard to vote for the $500,000 to come out of the current works budget without identifying what works are going to be pushed back to next year. If we can't do that, I'd like to see whether it's possible that whether the mover would potentially put forward the option of taking the $500,000 out of the Section 94 contributions rather than our capital works program, which means that we'll leave that program as is, and the funds will come out of the Section 94 contributions. Thank you.
Before I'll go to Mr. Knight first.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Zada, the adjustment that was done to the capital works program that allowed for this was to move works that were probably going to not meet their program in the current financial period in any case and be pushed to next financial year just for the nature of the programming of those works. And as such, it through undertaking these works and using those funds, it was not going to impact any capital program that was already not going to be done in the current process of this financial year in any case. That being said, if Section 94 funds are available, that also then, I suppose, allows an easy transition of those capital works to proceed into the next financial year and roll through.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. And just before you continue, Councillor Zado, Mr. McNulty would like to comment.
I think the message that you're referring to was stated that, yeah, that work could be funded from Section 94 as long as there's money in the Section 94 fund for it, and that the works identified in Section 94 would need to be identified in the Section 94 plan, and they're not yet. So we're doing a new Section 94 plan now, so that's something we could build in. Yeah.
Councillor Addy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't actually want to speak at all tonight, but that's why I tried to move everything by exception. However, just to clarify a couple of things, what Councillor Elmore was referring to about transferring from Granville to Parramatta Council, etc., there's a difference between transferring an entire council to a council and then just a portion of a council to another council. So, in addition to that, I'd like to know if the mover would accept that we remove the word lands, where it states about the Cumberland Council right to the City of Parramatta, etc., to any lands, and then just change that to the word property assets. Because there may be some things in there that may not be just necessarily lands, for bridges or etc. It is, yeah. Correct. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I believe you've got... Move, Councillor Garrard. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Declare that carried. Councillor Lake, right of reply.
Just requesting that the grammar be fixed up on point 4. Maybe that council investigate whether it is feasible for the land, once remediated, to be converted into a reserve. We'll probably read a bit better. That's all.
Finish your right of reply, Councillor Lake. I'll put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Declare that carried. Council, seating arrangements in the council chambers, item 42. Move Councillor Sarkis. Second. Seconded Councillor Garrard. Discussion? Amendment, Councillor Grove. It's page 310.
A number of councillors, by way of email, have raised concerns about the expense involved with this project. I certainly understand why they would have those concerns. I think that there's an opportunity here to leverage the expenditure for a stronger output for the community, and I would seek an amendment to the motion, merely turning the initial motion into a point 1 and then a point 2 with that as part of this project, council explores opportunities to partner with TAFE in delivery of the new table. That way, in addition to spending the 5-figure sum allocated to the change, we're able to potentially aid people in our community in developing trade skills. Yes.
Well, before I ask for a second for the amendment, would Councillor Sarkis accept that suggestion as an item 2?
I was actually going to put an amendment. I'll accept that. I'm happy to accept that. I mean,
all right. I'll ask Councillor Garrard as the seconder. Will you accept that suggestion from Councillor Grove that item 2?
Oh, that should be an easy decision, Mr. Mayor. But I mean, having taught in TAFE and something coming off the floor like this, and I just wonder when we want the desk. And if you want it before the this term of this council's finished, well, best of luck, because they do have a thing like a syllabus and etc. And they're not going to drop everything to go and build a table for Cumberland Council. But I suppose the opportunity can be explored, but we need to appreciate the fact that we do need it reasonably soon, because Councillor Sarkis and I can't sit up here and not see the mush of Councillor Addy and Councillor Zareka down there much longer.
I was going to say, we can certainly, I'll send you a signed picture.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard.
And that worries.
Councillor Zeta, then I have Councillor Zareka, then I have Councillor Elmore, and then Councillor Campbell. Councillor Zeta.
Mr. Mayor, I think initially we were discussing a change of table for 2 reasons. One was the fact that we couldn't see our fellow councillors to our left or to our right. And the second reason was there wasn't sufficient room between the councillors to allow us to, put our working papers and so on and do what we need to do in our workspace. I don't believe the new option or the two options that have been put forward resolve the issue in respect of the workspace. At the present time, I believe they're providing 60 centimetres for each person. At the moment, we've got 55 centimetres. So it's increasing the amount of room between each councillor by 5 centimetres, which is not substantial in the scheme of things, considering where we're at. And so the first option is a straight line, which doesn't resolve, I don't believe, the issue in respect of maybe looking left or right to see your fellow councillors. The second option, possibly. But the biggest issue that I've got is first option is early 50,000, and the second option is $57,000 versus extending the current table that we have by 1.5 metres, which resolves the issue in respect to space by 12, and that only costs $12,000. So my question to you is, why do we need to spend $57,000 or between $52,000 to $57,000 to change the current table that we've got, when we can simply spend $12,000, increase the length of this table, give us some extra space, and to be frank, if a councillor wants to see another councillor, they can move the chair forwards or backwards, or they can just bend over a little bit. It's not that difficult, and there's no need to spend $57,000.
You're saying.
Well, I can see Councillor Addy not well from here. I can see him. There you go. So so at the end of the day, if I need to speak to another fellow councillor, I can just move myself and I'll be able to see them. There's no need for council to spend $57,000 to get another table when the other option is $12,000 to extend this current table and give us some extra room. So it's a waste of money. We can spend that money elsewhere. There's no need just to, for us to go to be able to see the other person. They're going to spend an extra $42,000 or $45,000 if we're looking at option 2, when we could just spend $12,000 and just extend the current table and we're done. So at the end of the day, I would say, let's hold off on this. There's no need to pick option 1 or option 2. It's my understanding, we are looking at the restructure of our staff, and subject to what happens in terms of the final restructure, we don't know how many potential positions we may need at the end of this particular table, whether it's going to be 4, 5, or 6. If we decide in haste and choose an option right now, I think it may be a waste of money. So. And exactly, 60 grand in 3 months' time. So I would hope that the mover would probably want to consider deferring this particular motion until we finalise the review of staff, and then we can deal with this at that particular point in time. The structure review.
Councillor Sarkis, to you. Councillor Sarkis, to you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the way I look at it is we need these tables in Auburn anyway, so there's no problem with relocating these tables to Auburn and implementing the new table here.
Councillor Sarkis has the floor. Continue, Councillor Sarkis.
Just an answer to that, Mr. Mayor. Just an answer to that. Last time there was nothing that was carried, so the matter was made dormant, if you like. What I'm saying is that these tables can be used in Auburn for a number of various meetings. So,
you've answered that, so the mover is saying no. Councillor Zada, would consider your proposed amendment as a direct negative. So I think we have to deal with the motion at hand, and then if that's defeated, then you'd be entitled to move a motion. Well, basically, my consideration is that you either go ahead and make the changes, or you don't, and that to me is a direct negative. Okay, so I'll continue on. Councillor Zareka, then Councillor Elmore, then Councillor Campbell. No, I've got you too. So then Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Wong, then Councillor Sarkis, and then Councillor Garrard. Councillor Zareka.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to flag that I'm against either motion. What a waste of money. I mean, I'm comfortable. You guys are comfortable. Everyone can see everyone. And we're spending $57,000 on a bloody table. And every time we've asked for a service, we say, oh, it's not budgeted. There's no money in the budget. You know, we're always running out of money. We've got no money, and yet we're spending $57,000 for a table.
Unless you want to shoot
You know?
the road.
Sorry?
Council.
I think, Mr. Mayor, this is ridiculous, and I think it should be knocked on the head and rejected.
Thank you, Councillor Zareka. Councillor Elmore.
I'm looking at the motion put forward, and I do agree with Councillor Garrard. I'm a product of the TAFE system. I did my apprenticeship at Granville TAFE years and years ago, and what concerns me is that you know, what we're going to ask. Has anybody spoke with the TAFE about this? And when you want something built from TAFE, you've got to give them a specification. You've got to give them some drawing. You've got to give them. Who's going to GST, warranty, insurance? Who's going to? And obviously the governance table and the media table they match up. So if we change this table, we'll probably need to replace those two benches as well. Otherwise, they'll look like a kitchen table with a. They look like a wooden kitchen table with vinyl chairs. But it does concern me. We shouldn't really go out and put these things in motions unless we've spoken to TAFE. You know, who's going to do the cabling? Who's going to do the terror? Who's going to do the install? Is TAFE geared up to do that? Probably not.
I took that as a speech. Sorry, I took that as a speech, so I'm saying that Councillor Elmore has spoken against it. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I commend Councillor Grove for his brilliant suggestion. And in answer to the issue raised by Councillor Elmore, I'd like to stress the words explores opportunities. Now, this means going there and sounding them out. It's authorising council to take that initial action. It's possible that nothing will come of it. It's possible that it will be a brilliant success, but it doesn't assume that that TAFE is okay with it. I found that with this matter, as well with some other things that have come before council, I'm rather horrified at how much it costs to do anything these days, but apparently it does. But when we look at this, we look at the Barella toilet, we look at the Auburn Council chambers, what are we doing? We are rectifying the wrongs of the past. We are cleaning up the messes made by the administrator. This table is completely inappropriate. The lack of a toilet in Barella was wrong. It was wrong to pull that out of the plans for Barella, and it was wrong to vandalise the Auburn Council chamber. So what do? Do we accept all these messes from the past, or do we fix them up? And we're planning for the long-term future. I think we should regard these kinds of things as the initial set-up costs of council, of an elected council operating properly. They are initial set-up costs. They are one-offs. These things will last longer than Cumberland Council will. So just on the point option 2, I support it, but I think option 2, without changing the meaning of the words there, can be improved upon a bit. I think the table could be more curved than it is. If we look at the design here, there's plenty of, if there's not quite enough room from north to south, there's plenty of room from east to west. It could be spread out that way a little bit more, take up a little bit more space going this direction, and we could get a better curve on it. So I think as we move forward with this, we should look at the possibilities of some small modifications. There's no need for it to come for a sharp point down there, for example, a V point. It can be more rounded and fit into the chamber a little bit better. So I urge people to vote for this. Let's get it done.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just flag that I'll be opposing the motion because I don't see the benefit of spending over $50,000 to reassemble the tables, because at the moment, I don't see any community benefit they'll be getting out of spending $50,000 or $57,000 just having the table set up differently. Like Councillor Zaida has said previously, if I want to see my colleagues, I can just go walk around and just have a chat with them on the side. So, well, like, no. But yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to flag that I'll be opposing the motion, but I will be considering to support Councillor Zaida and Councillor Addy's amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. But it's not on this item, Councillor Addy. I have Councillor Sarkis, then Councillor Garrard, then Councillor Grove. Councillor Sarkis.
Mr. Mayor, I move this motion because I can appreciate how we used to sit in the former council, and we were able to see every speaker when they stood up to speak, or if they chose to speak whilst they were sitting. I chose option 2, and I did want to put in an amendment with option 2. With respect to the spacings of each councillor seat of 60 centimetres, I think it should be at least 65 as a minimum per area allocated to the councillor. The other thing is as Councillor Campbell alluded to, where you have the section where it meets as a V, what I would like to see is there be a bit of a space between the councillor's table and the mayor's desk, if you like, here, with another table in the middle that has a camera on it, which is like we used to have. So if we have a plan or something that is presented by the gallery and we want it put on the screen, we put it on that table, and it comes up on the screens, and we can point with our red dot, pointer, laser, whatever, and say this is what we're talking about. It makes it a lot more functionable for this council. Yes, $57,000. It might even cost $65,000 by the time we finish. It is a one-off investment, and you say there's no community benefit. We are a part of this community, and we are working for this community. Can I say sometimes I spend more hours working for council, I'm sure many councillors here are in the same boat, more hours working for council during the week than I do at my own job. So for me to sit here and debate and produce results for the community that I am a part of, you know, I've got to be comfortable in doing what I don't want to be leaning over trying to look at the speaker of a particular motion. I want to be able to see him sitting down. And if I can see you standing up. But, you know, when I'm sitting here, I want to be comfortable in doing what I'm doing. And that's why I moved this. So I'd ask that with that motion, what I've alluded to through my speech with the spacing of seats be added in, and also to look at having a table in the middle that has a camera on it, and I'm sure we've already got cameras, that can then project to the screens like we used to have, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, and in implementing this, I think it's prudent that we stress that these tables are not thrown out or damaged, right, in any way, but they are taken and used in one of our other facilities. And these can be well utilised. We have many, many meeting rooms where these tables can be utilised. And so we're not throwing anything out, right? This is an investment in this city's future. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you, Councillor Sarkis. Councillor Garrard, and then I have Councillor Grove, Councillor Zaida, and then Councillor Addy. Councillor Garrard.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a problem putting my name to the resolution. Councillor Sarkis has correctly indicated that there's any number of opportunities to use a meeting table within the area of Cumberland Council. I think the whole area, as I've moved through it, just lacks resources in terms of that. I might add, if anyone's been down to Granville Town Hall, if the council's been down there yet, to see the abysmal effort that was made by someone to give meeting facilities down there. I have a bit more to say about that in another place, perhaps. but this table can be used elsewhere. And I can't understand how, through good common sense and meeting, modern meeting practice, we moved the dais up there where the mayor and everybody else sat and moved it down to this level. Okay, that can be acceptable. But in the same fashion, this is not acceptable to modern meeting procedures. As simple as that. We hear comments about, you know, community benefit. Well, quite frankly, at the moment, this setup suits purely a political outcome. You're not going to get non-political decisions if you're encouraging people to sit in lines. And on that side, we've got Labor. On this side, you've got the Liberal Party, and you've got Eddie and I down here. Okay? And I don't necessarily want to be sitting up here, right? I'd like to be merging somewhere with everybody else. Unfortunately, one day we'll probably have the Greens here, all right? And yeah, I know you're. Yes, but then it's a matter of who you rub shoulders with. But anyway,
I wanted him to go somewhere else too.
And that's a common line that gets thrown away. But at the end of the day, there could be any number of community representatives, right, elected, that need to sit around a table, okay? Not to be creating sides of a table in order to come to decisions made by the whole. You know, the eye contact is important when people are addressing a meeting, and when you're addressing your chamber, your community. And it's important that they be able to see you and you see them and you see everybody else in the room. It worries me that the press is behind me, for instance, and not in front of me, all right? But by the way we have this, right, we don't have any contact with anyone. You should not be turning your back on people, right? Should not be doing that. It's just a bad inference when you're trying to make common decisions in the common good. So, you know, for all practical reasons, I support that we should have a new table, a new setup, and we use this table somewhere else in this council area where we need meeting facilities. And someone needs to have a good look at the Granville Town Hall, because the resolution here was that we have councillors going into the councillor's office there, because there was one. Well, what they've done, they've put the councillors into the caretaker's office. And then someone's got a sense of humour in this organisation, Mr McNulty, because when I read the report, they said you can put a small table in there. A small table where you can't swing a cat. By the time you put 3 councillors in there, and I might add, you walk out of the room, you go into the room, and then there's the stairway goes up and takes in a third of the room, so you knock your head on the stairs, because somebody painted the same colour as the walls. Have you seen it? It's a master of design. And I might add, this area here was designed by the General Manager, Mr Ryan. And why he designed this, I don't know. Was he under instructions by the Administrator? I don't know. But we did not decide this ourselves. So work out how much money was spent on this system, right, without our input into it. So I'm suggesting we can have better. I agree with Councillor Campbell. We can do better, and we can't. This is very good. It will go somewhere else, right? And I'm certain it can.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Grove.
Look, I'd simply say in response to Councillor Garrard, if he can't swing a cat in that room, he's not trying hard enough. But I'll do the pointers offline in that space. I'm just more of a dog person. With respect to this motion, though, I share the reluctancy of councillors to go to the expense involved in producing a new table. I do think that a quality environment for the governing body of this city will improve the culture of this body. It'll improve the culture of this organisation, and that stretches out to our major stakeholders. It stretches out to our staff. It stretches out to the community, how they perceive us, the quality, and whatever we can do to diffuse the amount of unnecessary confrontation, whether it's by layout, by socialisation, by anything, is going to produce a strong dividend to the community. My strongest feedback is we've identified the quarterly budget review as a potential funding source, and if we've got savings in that review, by all means we should roll on those savings towards this project. But the level of money involved means that however we go about doing it, we need to ensure that we are able to take the community with us as part of this project. They need to own the facility we provide. So if we go out and we procure some Chinese company to produce us a little bit of IKEA furniture for the amount of money that's quoted in this report, we're doing the wrong thing by our ratepayer. And we will deserve to be ridiculed for it as much as we would be ridiculed for some of the other more unusual projects that local government is renowned for, notwithstanding the ones discussed tonight. So I would simply say my actual preference would be to defer it, but I don't think the two motions are against each other. You can identify savings in the QBR of number 3 and simply deploy those funds into another time. I don't think there is an urgency around it. I'd love for it to be done tomorrow, but I would hate to take the chamber offline in a period that we actually need to do it. It would not be the end of the world if final installation occurred over the Christmas break. I think I'm quite open to it, but the more that we can do to facilitate a positive environment rather than a wall-to-wall, my first couple of meetings here, I didn't really enjoy the sight of seeing half the chamber stacked out with Labor councillors. I accept that that's the elected public's outcome, but considering that I was elected with a diversity of councillors, as were all of us, I'm sure that they don't enjoy seeing a row of non-Labor councillors on the other side. So I think that there is a case for that curved environment. I think that's healthy. It's what we had in Holroyd, and I would say in Holroyd we had a far less confrontational chamber, and that was really good for the community. And Councillor Christou alluded to that earlier tonight. So those are my comments, and I hope that we can proceed without trying to beat up every line of expenditure this council goes through.
Thank you. Councillor Grave, Councillor Sarkis, I'll clarify that amendment isn't an amendment. It's up there just to remind me that if this motion is defeated, that's the next, it'll become. Yes. Yes, yes you did. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Plans. Yes, definitely. Okay, yeah.
Because I'm sure you guys value your jobs.
They're correcting it now.
Right, we don't, but we do LEPs. We do LEPs, and we do have a look at
we do have to review projects.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
So I take your point. Point taken. Councillor Zeta, you have spoken against the item, or you've got a question, Councillor Zeta.
To the relevant staff member, Mr. Mayor, one of the issues that we had, or that we've got, that we're trying to push a new table for, is that we can't see each other when we're talking. Just wondering whether I can be, I suppose, if we actually were required to stand up every time we gave a speech, would that resolve the issue about people not being able to see each other on either side?
Well, I don't know who to ask.
Well, I'm just wondering, because that might save us $57,000.
Anybody, Mr. McNally, would you like to comment?
Guess what?
Yeah,
everyone can see me. So at the end of the day, well, you only need to see me if I'm talking. So yeah, come on, I'll give you my side.
Well, so Councillor Zeta, I'll take that as a point, and I won't bother embarrassing the acting general manager. Now I have a motion that by Councillor Sarkis that the motion be put. All those in favour?
No, there's only one left for me to speak. There's no one else.
No, there was Councillor Lake too, I believe. So I'll put it. All those in favour? Against?
No.
I declare that carried. I'll put the motion. All those in favour as written? Yeah. All those in favour? Against? I declare that lost. Show of hand. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Grove, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Sarkis, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Lake, Councillor Sahas, Councillor Christou, Councillor Campbell. Here we got 1, 2. No, I've got Councillor Grove. I'm quite surprised. But anyways, those against? Councillor Addy, Councillor Zareka, Councillor Zeta, Councillor Wong and Councillor Cummings. I declare it carried.
What an absolute...
Council, item 44, and I can't remember who, I think it was Councillor Lake who called to speak on this, if I'm...
Sorry.
Oh, division. Councillor, oh, I'm up. Well, I haven't got a... Has anybody suggested anything?
Which one?
So, who moved? Sorry?
Councillor Garrard, Councillor Wong.
Councillor Garrard, seconded Councillor Wong. So the actual recommendations on page 327. Speakers. Well, we don't have to if there's no speakers.
If you have a look at your screen, you'll find there's a button for it.
Oh, Councillor Addy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can the gallery see me?
I think so.
Can the councillors all see me? Yes. Apart from the size? Yeah? Yes. Can the audience, can the...
I can't see.
Put your glasses on, Paul, please. Oh, you have got them on, sorry.
I understand you better if you talk to us.
Mr. Mayor.
on.
No, I said put your glasses on. I said no, they're on. It was a sarcastic remark. Anyway. Mr. Mayor, can we just add one item to that?
One item?
Yes.
What is that item you're proposing?
And the item I'm proposing is that council undertake biannual inspections after the development application has been approved for a period of 3 years. After the development application. I know that. Where are we? I can't even see what it says. Can someone move that screen up so I can see what's behind the... That's it, thank you. For a period of 3 years to... what do you call it? Sorry? Oh, so, yeah, to monitor or verify that no additional space has been used above the 100 square metres for educational purposes. 800, not 100, 800.
What Councillor Addy perhaps wants to implement. But I think you will find that that resolution or that statement, it pre-commits council to supporting the DA. We haven't seen any paperwork to the DA yet. Is that right?
Well, unfortunately, under this current system, Councillor Garrard, we won't even see the DA.
Okay, well, how can we make a decision that the DA has been approved, as if the DA has been approved?
Well, the officers would be able to enforce what the DA has put in its requirements. It's just that the elected council has no process in approving any DAs.
Well, it should be then. It should read, on the occasion, or in the instance that a development application is approved, right? But you can't move,
okay.
You
well,
can't move that.
No, I'm suggesting you just trying to make it so I'm obviously I would take...
I don't have an issue with what Councillor
Garrard is
stating. Yeah. However, the planning proposal actually seeks to limit the educational to 800 square metres.
Yes.
So if that is the case, then any development application cannot be refused for the particular part about the 800 square metres. I'm not talking about anything else.
No.
That's the only reason I'm stating that.
Yes.
But if he wants to, should any development application be approved, I don't have an issue with that, because the inspections don't take place, and Councillor Lake also stated, well, there's no DA at the moment. I don't care if it's a DA now or not. It's when a development application does come through, just in case we don't see it, because we do not see them anymore, and we don't have a chance to actually make a change back then, we're making it now. That's all.
All right, so Councillor Garrard, do you accept that proposition for point 5?
If we change the wording.
Yeah, it's been changed. Undertake biannual inspections should any development application be approved for a period of 3 years to monitor that no additional space has been used above their 800 square metres for educational purposes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's fine. Councillor Wong, you accept that? Councillor Elmore.
Mr Mayor, I'm not quite sure this is relevant because we're talking about a planning proposal here. The planning proposal is for additional uses, educational office in an industrial area. Now, if I read the report and it goes back, the building goes back to 1965 when it was built. Council in 2010 comes along and does and puts in an LEP, and they didn't realise there's an office building there and there's also an auditorium. So I understand that the applicant is just trying to regularise everything here. But I'm a little concerned about this additional clause that we're trying to put in about inspections. I don't think that's relevant to the planning proposal. If I could have an answer from the relevant council officer, please, Mr Mayor.
Mr Davis.
Through you, Mr Mayor. While what's being proposed in that motion may not be directly relevant to the planning proposal, it does still, in my opinion, have an association, and that would be a matter that would then be carried out by council's regulatory arm that oversees compliance with any development consent should be issued in the future, and ensures compliance with the LEP in terms of permissibility.
Councillor Lake.
I just think that last paragraph just needs to be swapped around so that it starts, should any development application be approved, comma, that council undertake, etc.
Further discussion? No further discussion. Right of reply, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you.
I'll put it. Do we need a planning matter division? All those in favour? Councillor Addy, Councillor Grove, Councillor Zeta, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Zareka, Councillor Sarkis, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Wong, Councillor Lake, Councillor Saar, Councillor Christou, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Cummings.
Approved council undertake. If you start off with that council, there's no requirement to have council before undertake. Yeah, just undertake.
I'm sure the officers will make sure that it's...
No, fair enough.
Yep. Council, I believe that's all items. I'll declare the meeting closed at 8:06.